Welcome to another edition of The Right Call, and it is your host, Mark Altman, with his famous co-host, Cole Altman. Cole, how the heck are you?
You ask me this every time, and I got kind of a different answer today. I'm a little numb.
You're a little numb. That's a good word.
We've been through a lot in the last week or so, and we got a lot to talk about today, so why don't you kick us off?
I think you're also a little congested.
I may be a little congested. Allergies, pollen season, geez. I mean, it's been
awful.
It's quite the doozy. I've been using Flonase and Allegra, all these words that mean nothing to my allergy suffering.
I mean, I can't believe how bad pollen season's been.
Okay,
wait.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Cole, I want to surprise our audience today because I'm sure you're anticipating us to be incredibly negative, which we will be. Make no mistake. But I want you to notice the little prop I have on the studio, the Sacramento Kings, and I put them there, Cole, because that has been the only sports team in the winter that has even given me a nugget of enjoyment.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, I watched Sacramento play Golden State. Up and down, exciting, passionate, effort-filled basketball. And I was like, God, why can't it be like that? And by the way, one other quick aside on Sacramento. Before we got so excited that the Lakers beat Golden State, Sacramento was on the verge of beating Golden State. So you can see why the Lakers are struggling so much right now. They were a little bit of frauds. But Cole, I just got to ask you, what the hell has happened to our sports winter and spring here? It's been a disaster.
I know. I'm not sure what's happened. I mean, for the Celtics, this has been kind of in the works for a little while. I mean, you've seen Missoula been struggling to call timeouts, struggling to handle the players for a little while now. But I guess we didn't see a downfall of this magnitude, 3-0, down 3-0 against a number 8 seed Heat team. But on the Bruins side of things, it was complete shock. I mean, you just didn't see it coming. Best record in NHL history. If someone told me they were going out in the first round, I would have laughed at them. I would have been like, I'll put $1,000 that doesn't happen. So it's been pretty wild winter and spring here, and I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I want to start with the Bruins because I have a take on the Bruins. And, we see a lot of times in professional sports where when teams get eliminated, there's a release in the next week or two of all the injuries the team had. And we saw that. We heard Hampus Lindholm had a broken foot, was playing with a broken foot, and I sure hope so because he certainly was playing like he had a broken foot.
Yeah.
We heard Linus Ullmark had dramatic injuries, debilitating injuries with a word, although Ullmark came out shortly thereafter and said they weren't that debilitating. Bergeron played with a herniated disc. And here's my question in general, Cole. What is the purpose of that? Is it so to take the pressure off the players' poor performance? Is it so we have empathy for the players? It feels a little cheesy. I got to be honest with you because, if they win it all and if they do well, I don't know if those injuries are released. It just feels like it's a little bit of a scapegoat.
Well, I agree and disagree. I think that it's definitely a scapegoat. I think it's definitely kind of an excuse to say, oh, this is why we lost, not acknowledging the mistakes they made and then providing the issues. But I also don't think that they wouldn't come out with it if they do win. Like, if you told me that Jason Tatum had been playing with a torn labrum in the finals and they had won that finals, I think Jason Tatum would have wanted people to know that because then he would have looked even better. And so I'm thinking that the players...
So either way, it's self-serving.
Either way, it's self-serving. Either way, it makes an excuse. And either way, it takes pressure on or off of the player.
All right, so Cole, this segues perfectly into something I've been wanting to talk about on The Right Call for weeks now. And here's my question for you. Was the Bruins season a failure?
No, because they set an NHL record that is pretty amazing. I mean, it's never been broken in the 100-something years that the NHL's been around. Like that's historic. It's amazing. It's something that
you're not serious, are you?
Bruins fans will never forget. And they went out in the first round of the playoffs. So I think it's a failure to the extent that they should have been the Stanley Cup champions because they had that team. But to say the season was a complete failure, I think is inaccurate.
Well, I'm just going to bring up Giannis's quote about failure that's been playing ad nauseum everywhere you look about look at how well spoken Giannis is and stuff. And I got news for everybody. I do agree with some sentiments in Giannis's quote. Okay, listen. My company's called Mindset Go, so we're certainly about growth mindset. Like, I get it, and the Bruins season was a failure. The Milwaukee Bucks season was a failure. When you are the number one seed and you have the best record in your sport and you can't get out of the first round of the playoffs, it's a failure. I don't care how. Can you learn lessons from it? Yes. Do you win a championship every year in sports? Of course not. And it's a failure. You can be both. You can say, we did not meet our expectations. We did not meet the organization's expectations. We did not meet our fans' expectations. Period. We didn't do it, and that's okay. But to not be accountable for not living up to expectations, that's the part Giannis left out, and that's the part I have a problem with.
Well, okay, let me ask you a question. If a player in the NBA averages 35 points per game and is the best player on his team, averages a triple-double, and then goes out in the first round of the playoffs and plays horribly in the playoffs, is that a failed season for the player?
Well, that's actually a pretty realistic example, isn't it?
It is.
Because that's what we're talking about with Jason Tatum.
Well, no, it's not. Because
what do you mean? He averaged 31 points a game this season.
Okay, the Celtics would be eliminated right now if it weren't for Jason Tatum.
But no, your point's actually really well taken, because my thing is that in Boston specifically, and by the way, just came out in the Sports Business Journal that Boston is the number one sports city in America. I don't know if you saw that, Cole.
I did not, but I'm excited to hear it.
So realistically, if Jason Tatum is, every time I hear Celtics fans chant MVP, I want to vomit, because he's not even close to an MVP. The reality is, if Jason Tatum is the best player on his team and leads his team in the regular season and then doesn't show up in the playoffs, has one ridiculously sick game against the Sixers, and otherwise has been inconsistent at best, that's a failure. That's a failure.
He has been so tremendous. Let's forget
not in the playoffs.
Let's forget scoring for a second. He has been so elite on the boards in the playoffs. So elite. He's averaging over 10 boards a game.
You mean he's finally playing to the level of his size? That's what you're calling elite. Because
Excuse me.
He should have been averaging all along. He should have been averaging 8 to 10 boards.
Not every 6'8" player is averaging 10, 11 boards a game. He's 6'8".
But his role on the Celtics, who are a really weak rebounding team, they need him to
That's
get
true.
8 to 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's unfair to Jason Tatum to call his season a complete failure due to his inconsistency.
No, I'm not even saying his season's a failure. Look, when it comes to Jason Tatum, it comes down to one thing. And Cole, I have to tell you, this is one of the most underrated things in sports. He's not a leader.
That's very
He
true.
doesn't make his teammates better. As a matter of fact, he's actually very egocentric and makes it about him. When things aren't going his way, when he's not scoring, when he says asinine things like, I'm humbly the best player in the world, after a game that he stunk out the joint until the final 3 minutes, where he wouldn't have even had a chance to do what he did in the final 3 minutes if it wasn't for the way Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon played in that game. And he couldn't even defer to his teammates in that case. Jason Tatum doesn't lead by example. As a matter of fact, I would argue he does the opposite with his arguing with the officials, his body language. He leads bad examples. I would say Jason Tatum leads with bad examples. Jaylen Brown, to me, is probably the most improved Celtic this year.
He's not a team basketball player.
But he's not a team basketball player either. He looks for his stuff, and I know people are going to say, well, he's one of the top 10, 15 players in the league. He's scoring. Yes, I understand that. But he often makes bad decisions. He continues to dribble through traffic. Am I glad Jaylen Brown's on the Celtics? Yes.
I'm not.
Well, it depends what else you could get instead of him. But in the NBA, it's hard to get stars. So you don't be... See, even with my frustration with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I'm not looking to trade them unless I knew you could get an equivalent player, because in this day and age in the NBA, you don't want to lose a star. It's virtually impossible. Especially in Boston. Boston is not a destination city. People are not dying to come play in Boston. I mean, Mike Muscala may be, but that's about it.
So I think here's.
I mean, Evan Ponytail Fournier didn't even want to stay in Boston. Thank God.
I think there's a couple things to note here. I think Jaylen Brown has become an increasingly more selfish player this season. Sure, his stats have improved and he's become more of an elite defender, but he's become more selfish. I rarely see him pass the ball. I rarely see, and the one thing I was talking to my friend Alex about is that when are the times you see Jason Tatum make a great pass to Jaylen Brown or vice versa? It's practically impossible.
And it's almost always on the perimeter. Even when it happens, it's almost always on the perimeter. That's a great point.
You rarely see it. And they never coexist and do well. I can't remember the last time I saw them both put up 30 points. And so I think that's going to be a big struggle for the Celtics in the future. If they want to keep both stars, you got to figure out how to pair them together so they can both succeed. Because that's not working out right now unless it's Game 7 every single game.
It's just, you have such a leadership void. Marcus Smart's voice has faded and worn off. He's been there too long. Al Horford's too quiet. His career's pretty much over. And Joe Mazzulla is so underqualified to manage. I saw an analogy in the Globe today. It was brilliantly said. When the Celtics appointed Joe Mazzulla to the coach, it was like handing a sports car over to a 16-year-old kid. And I said, that was a brilliant analogy.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. And so if your two stars don't lead by example, if your two stars don't play with much emotion most of the time, your coach certainly doesn't have a lot of passion and emotion. He's not even qualified to do it. Where does the leadership come from? I mean, the way they fell apart in games 2 and 3, they're so mentally and emotionally weak.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Robert Williams, to me, I was the first person I said, man, if he is healthy going into the playoffs, they shouldn't lose. They can't lose if he's playing. But they've even figured out a way to screw up how to use him. They don't seem to use him enough. They don't seem to know how to play him in the right lineup. Joe Mazzulla is still tinkering with lineups. We're in freaking Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. He still doesn't know what the hell lineup to put in. Cole, in the last several minutes of the game, you were making the point about Tatum and Brown. Does this team look completely clueless at the end of the game? They hold on to the ball too long. They don't get shots off. I mean,
they look like they're playing in an AAU game. They really do.
Not only do they look like they're playing an AAU game, they don't look like a team that's been to the Eastern Conference Finals 5 of the last 7 years. 5 of the last 7 years. If I hear one more person say, well, they're still 25 and 26 years, I don't care. They've been in the playoffs. They've been in crunch time, pressure situations over and over and over, and they don't learn. I mean, for God's sakes, they barely beat Atlanta. Like Atlanta gave them a good run. Atlanta's a joke.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive that Tatum has already over 80 playoff wins. He's 25 years old.
Cole, I got to tell you something. And you can throw this right back in my face if you don't agree. I am so sick and tired to people comparing, of all organizations in the NBA, don't compare statistics in the Boston Celtics. People are putting up, I see on social media all the time, people comparing Tatum and Larry Bird. Larry Bird has more clutch play, more basketball IQ, more mental toughness in his freaking finger than Jason Tatum has in his whole body. And that's not me being an old guy trying to dwell on the 80s. It's a fact. Jason Tatum can't hold Larry Bird's jock when it comes to winning, clutch, emotionally, mentally tough shots. He can't. He can't even do it to Pearson Garnett. Forget Bird. He's not even in Pearson Garnett's league of mental toughness. Mental toughness.
Come on, they only won one championship. They had that team for years, and they only won one championship.
Well, they were in two. They were in 2.
I'm not sure.
They were in 2. 2009, they got eliminated because Garnett got hurt. But they were in 2. And they should have won both if Kendrick Perkins didn't break his foot and get injured. They would have won both. But the bottom line is no one would. You can say what you want about that Celtic team. You think they should have won more? Maybe. I'll give you that. No one ever called them not mentally tough.
Fair.
No one ever questioned their toughness. No one ever questioned their work ethic or determination. We question it about this team every other game.
And I think what really stands out to me is that I was watching the Celtics game in my room last night, and my mom came in and saw my TV. She goes, they don't even look like they want to be there.
Doesn't that say it all?
Your
mom watches how much NBA?
I think that's probably the first chunk of NBA games she's watched all season.
She didn't tell you it was just a game, though, did she?
No. No, but she did when the Bruins lost.
Oh.
She goes,
epic fail.
She goes, well, there's next season. I stormed upstairs. I was done. But besides the point, they're done. They don't look like they want to be there. They didn't look like they wanted to be there in rounds 1 or 2 until it really mattered. Seriously.
Cole, let me ask you a question.
I don't know.
You're 16 years old, okay? I want you to tell the truth. Seriously, tell me your truth. If you played a basketball team, let's say a few times over the course of a season, and the first time you played a team, the guy you were guarding humiliated you, like just embarrassed you, couldn't stop him, couldn't defend, made all kinds of mistakes. What would be your mindset going into the next game? I mean, would you be out for blood? Would you want to prove to everybody that you had a bad game?
Oh, I'd have a killer mindset.
Right?
That person's not scoring on me.
Do you really believe in your heart that when the Celtics play game after game, they can't even typically complete a full game with effort? Do you think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have trouble sleeping? Do you think they're coming out in games 2 and 3? You think they're coming out in game 4? Here's my question, game 4. Forget about winning. Do you think they're in practice today going, this is bullshit. We got embarrassed on national TV. We are a laughing stock in the NBA. As Reggie Miller said, they were so humiliated that they were running plays. Miami was running plays for Cody Zeller. Reggie Miller talked about it in the second half. He goes, how humiliating they're running plays for Cody Zeller. Do you think they're sitting there in practice today, no matter what happens in game 4, we got to come out with a chip on our shoulder. We got to be angry. We got to be. You think they're doing that?
Not only do I think they're not doing it, I think I checked my Snapchat this morning, and I saw Tatum was posting videos of his son.
Oh,
after
God.
the game.
Oh.
After the game at 1 a.m., he was posting videos of his son, and he was posting pictures of himself. There's really no other way to describe it than he's there for the money.
You know the last time I saw a family member of a Boston athlete destroy another family member's career was Mia Hamm and Nomar Garciaparra. Mia Hamm distracted Nomar talking about soccer and getting them all into soccer. Nomar was either that or the steroids, but he was never the same guy. I don't want to hear about Deuce. I really don't want to hear. I don't want to see him on TV. I
don't get why you don't like him, though.
No, because, listen, there's a time and a place. It's like earlier this season, late in the season, when Tatum missed a game because he had a birthday party for Deuce on the day of the game. I'm tired of it. Dude, you're paid $30, $40 million a year. You have a whole off season to spend with your son. That's not your priority. Your priority is to the organization. And you know what? I don't see any other players doing this. I mean, sometimes you'll see like Draymond Green or a player bring their kids up in a press conference after the game. Fine. That's after the game. Focus on basketball because you can't even do that. Like, show up more than one game in a row. I don't have anything against Deuce. What I have is against a distraction. And Jason Tatum, and listen, before anybody listening to the call goes, well, what do you mean? It's good that fatherhood and blah, blah, blah. No. I want my Celtic star, our Celtic star, to focus on basketball. If Jason Tatum learns how to play with commitment and effort and stops leading by bad examples, he can bring Deuce to half court for all I care. But get your act together first before I have to see Deuce in my face every minute. I mean, Deuce couldn't even win a dunk contest at half court the other night.
Okay, settle down.
he couldn't even win a dunk contest.
I don't see Jason Tatum growing that skill throughout his career. I think it would have happened by now. He's played in too many games. He's won too many games. He's experienced enough success that he should have grown by now. And it doesn't take this long for successful players.
Cole, Marcus Smart said in the media after game 2, we don't consistently do the little things it takes to win. We get bored, which is exactly what you were just talking about. How? You haven't even won a championship. You don't want to do the little things. You haven't won 4 championships. You've won 0, and you don't want to do the little things game in and game out? Jaylen Brown, after game 1, yeah, we kind of treat it like a regular season game. Every other game we hear that. What the hell is wrong with the DNA of these guys? Treating a playoff game like a regular season game. Not willing to focus and attention on the little things. Constantly harping on the refs. It's an AAU team.
It is an AAU.
It's an AAU team. I can't take it. I really can't take it. And you know what the worst part is? I hate this team. I don't enjoy this team. I hate the players. I mean, I like Malcolm Brogdon. I like Derek White.
He sucks.
I like Malcolm. We'll get to that in a
God,
second.
he sucks.
I like Malcolm Brogdon. I like Derek White. I like Robert Williams when he's awake on the floor. Like, I do like a few of their players, but I hate the makeup of this team. I hate it. I cannot remember in my lifetime a Boston sports team that had this much talent that I disliked as much as this group. I really can't. I mean, this is an absolute unicorn of a team that way.
Malcolm Brogdon is the single most
6th man of the year.
overrated player.
He's one of the few smart players they have.
He's anything
And
but
he has
smart.
my shooting form.
He does have your shooting.
Well,
form.
that's a win.
Okay. He's an amazing defensive player, don't get me wrong. He takes piss poor shots so frequently, it irritates me.
Okay, I will not let this show morph into a Malcolm Brogdon complaint club.
He is atrocious.
I don't know where this is coming from.
It was a mistake to sign him. It was a waste.
That's not even
of
a
money.
realistic take. Malcolm Brogdon's not having a good series, but the whole team isn't having a
Malcolm
good series.
Brogdon's not having good playoffs. He's had a few good games. Playoffs. Now, Derek White is the 3rd best player on the
I'm
Celtics.
going to tell you, if I was to replace Joe Mazzulla, you know who I'd replace him with?
Who?
Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Ted Lasso is a coach. No, all kidding aside, can we talk about that? Joe Mazzulla cannot keep his job. He's lost the locker room. He said it after the game last night. He lost the locker room. He didn't have his team prepared in game 3, down 2-0 of the Eastern Conference Finals. He didn't have his team prepared. Honestly, the only coach that's available, and I'm not even sure about this, would be Nick Nurse. I don't even, and I only say that because he won a championship with Toronto and he seems to have an edge to him.
Why don't you feel like Budenholzer would be a viable option?
I might be okay with Budenholzer, actually.
I was thinking
I might be okay with Budenholzer. Not Monty Williams.
No, I don't want him.
But maybe Budenholzer. But they've got to get a coach. And you know what the thing is? Will Tatum and Brown listen to any? I mean, let's be honest. Does it matter? If Tatum and Brown aren't willing to listen to anybody, I don't know that it even matters.
Okay, here's what needs to go down in the offseason.
Marcus Smart needs to get traded for a big man, too.
Marcus Smart needs to go. Jaylen Brown needs to go. And Grant Williams needs to be released because he looks like a Lego.
When Grant Williams made a fool of himself with Jimmy Butler in game 2, he sealed his fate permanently with the Celtics. He's gone. There's no way Grant Williams is back. 0 chance.
He looks like a Lego. You should see him. He's like cylindrical. Like, I don't get it.
All right, listen, I want to finish with, I want to talk about the Red Sox for a minute.
Oh, no.
Now, I have to say, I've been incredibly negative about the Red Sox all season long.
Yeah, that's what you get for talking about the Red Sox right there.
However, even though their top 3 starters may be 3 of the most injury-prone starters in baseball, and Chris Sale, James Paxton, and Garrett Whitlock, I will say this. They're playing with heart. They fight. They've come back. They've had a lot of comeback wins. Alex Cora, once again, has them playing with a lot of energy and spirit. They're actually an enjoyable team to root for.
No, they're not. They suck.
No, I didn't say they were going to win the World Series. I said they're an enjoyable team to root for. And I have to call out Cole for something. I've been talking for the last 2-3 years about how great Alex Verdugo is. And Cole's been like, this guy's nothing. And here he is again, Alex Verdugo doing the job.
Alex Verdugo is been one of the most underrated players of the MLB.
No, he hasn't even been a rated player. Up until this year, he sucked.
No, he didn't.
He was a punch and Judy hitter outfielder. He sucked. This year, he's doing very well.
No.
Up until this year, he sucked. He was overrated.
Verdugo's
was even rated
always
at all.
been underrated, and now he's still underrated as he is a star in the MLB. He is an amazing player. He is right now the best player on the Red Sox. Rafael Devers is having a poor year, and I'd still.
No, he's been coming on.
He has recently. But if you look at his average, he's still sub 250.
Cole, let's have a contest. Let's have a contest. Who do you think will get injured sooner, Chris Sale or James Paxton? Like, let's start some odds. Like, if we do another right call in a week or two, what are the odds that both of them are still healthy? Is there any chance?
I don't think there's a chance that both are healthy. I think one of them is going to get hurt because it just doesn't seem realistic.
All right, let's finish talking about the Nuggets-Lakers. Cole, I have to tell you that the Nuggets, finishing the top seed in the West, really underestimated them, did not think they were going to beat the Lakers, really forgot that Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., really solid front court. Jokic is the best player in the league right now. He just is. Jamal Murray's had a rebirth. He looks like vintage Jamal Murray. Maybe the Lakers win a game, but if Denver wins the title, where do you rank Denver as title winners? Like when Golden State wins, like we see it as an elite team. Do you think, is Denver going to go down? Is it almost like in football when the Rams won the Super Bowl? Is it going to be something like that? We're like, yeah, they won, but is Denver really that good?
No, because I think when the Rams won the Super Bowl, they had such a great defense, and I think they had Kupp and Stafford, who was an amazing duo. I don't think that's similar, but I think
no, but I don't think the Rams were an elite team, though.
No, I agree.
That's my point.
Okay, then yeah, I agree with that. I think it's also going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to see because I feel like there's a lot of people in the league who don't respect Jokic enough and that don't.
Come on, who doesn't respect him?
I know a lot of people don't put him up there with Luka and Giannis because he's not that athletic, and he's just so talented and so smart that there's really no other person in the league that I would rather have on my team.
So if Denver or Miami win the title, I don't consider either of those teams elite, not to take anything away from them, but does that mean that if Denver or Miami wins, which is probably going to happen, that the league was kind of watered down this year? There wasn't really an elite team. Is that what that means?
No, I think the Celtics are an elite team.
What?
I think the Celtics are an elite team.
I'm going to put you on mute.
No, talent-wise.
Oh, the infamous on paper.
Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
On paper.
On paper.
Are the games played on paper?
They are
just
not.
For curiosity.
They aren't played on paper.
Okay.
But I agree. It seems like that's happening in the NBA right now.
Humbly, the Celtics are an amazing team on paper.
Humbly, the Celtics are ass.
Great.
So,
but they're not an elite team, though.
On paper, they are.
But we're not talking on paper. We're talking about performance.
What about on paper?
No, I'm saying I don't think Denver and Miami are an elite team. All right, final right call. What is your final take? Could be about the Patriots. Could be about the Bruins. Could be about the Red Sox. What is your right call? Final take.
I'd like to switch over to fantasy football real quick.
Oh boy, it's May.
Please draft Bijan Robinson, number 1 overall in your drafts. He's going to be the most elite fantasy player we've seen since rookie year Saquon Barkley. So please take him.
Just for curiosity, can he play defense for Atlanta? Since Atlanta has nobody to stop anybody on defense, but they drafted a running back in the first round, right?
Yeah,
great job. Great job, Atlanta.
They're playing him at wide receiver in training camp.
Oh,
They're playing him in wide receiver.
I love teams like the Lions in Atlanta who don't understand defense and want to keep drafting offensive players.
They think they're going to score 50 points a game.
Wait, that's right. The Lions also drafted a running back in the first round, even though they have a pathetic defense.
He's going to be sick, Jahmyr Gibbs. Oof.
All right.
What's your final
You know what my
take,
favorite Gibbs
Mr.
is?
Brogdon?
I'll tell you what. You want to talk about a great Gibbs? Andy Gibbs of the Bee Gees. Now, that's a great Gibbs.
What kind of final take
Barry
is that?
Gibb? Yeah, that's a great Gibb. Okay, so my final call is about the Patriots. You know, there's been a lot of good press about their draft. Mac Jones is reinvigorated. I'm not even all that worried about their receiving like everybody else is. I think they have enough bodies there to get by for where they're at this year, frankly, since Bill O'Brien's got a love affair with Mike Gesicki. I'm going to say this. The Patriots, to me, no matter what, can't be better than a 9-8 or 10-7 team because Mac Jones' ceiling, even if he plays well under Bill O'Brien, he's nothing better than a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr. People have to get a grip. Even if you're a Mac Jones believer, what are you going to get out of Mac Jones?
He'll be lucky to be as good as Kirk Cousins.
Maybe. But I'm just saying we need to pump the brakes on Bill O'Brien reviving Mac Jones because even if he does, Mac Jones' ceiling is
reviving? You can't revive someone who's always been dead. You can't do it.
Did you see Bailey Zappi's wife the other day on social media? He just got engaged.
Really?
She's quite attractive.
Wow, really?
Not that I care.
No, just making an observation.
That's all. I'm just for our viewers.
Of course,
I think it's important to draw attention
Share
to
the
that.
facts.
All right, for Cole Altman, this is Mark Altman. Thank you for joining us for another edition of The Right Call.